Hello, my name is Sean. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. If you've visited before, I talk about retro pop culture of all different kinds. Today I'm going to be talking about Masters of the Universe Revolution, which is the Netflix TV series. It's 5 parts. It's the sequel to Masters of the Universe Revelation from Kevin Smith and producer Ted Biaselli. This show came out about maybe a week ago. It took me a while to gather my thoughts about it. I watched it right away. It's a quick watch. It's about less than 2.5 hours long if you watch the whole thing. I'm going to give my non-spoiler thoughts first, then I'm going to get into spoilers and talk about the good and bad of this series. So, non-spoiler, right off the top of my head, I would say that I don't fully recommend this show. I think that it's harmless fun if you don't know much about He-Man, because the core attitudes of the original series and franchise are there this time. Heroism is depicted. The characters aren't at each other's throats. They don't have there's a lot of contrivance here, but they don't have the contrived attitudes towards each other. Put a pin on that. But nothing drastically off-putting on a surface level. If you stop to think about the story, not even deeply, at any point, the whole thing crumbles right apart. But for the most part, it's harmless fluff and makes some kind of drastic changes to the lore, but really, this to me is an Elseworlds alternate universe thing and has nothing to do with the original franchise, toys, and cartoons and mini comics. So I don't really recommend this because I feel like you can skip it, but if you watch it, you won't have drastic thoughts of like how horrible all of this is. So that's my review. It might sound cryptic. I will say that the animation and art style is awesome, and some of the voice acting is good. But I'll get into good and bad later. But yeah, so animation and art style great. Story crap. Uh, this is something that a fan can skip if they want, and that's about it for my non-spoiler review. So, spoiler review. And really, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably have seen it. So, I wrote a bunch of notes. For this. I'm going to get into the good first. So, I had mentioned art style and animation. The art style is good. It's sharp. It's clear. It's colorful. I like the overall designs of most of the characters here. The animation's fluid. It's really, really well done when they're fighting. A lot of cool, inventive use of their powers, etc. So yeah, the animation art style is really, really great, especially when they're doing callbacks and they have cool things in the background. They're drawn really well, like Fright Zone, like the Monstroid toy, as opposed to the Monstroids from the He-Man She-Ra Christmas special. There's heroism in the heroes. I'd mentioned that too. The heroes are actually acting heroically. They're going on quests. They're doing things. They're trying to help people. That's great. The attitude of the characters is a lot better than it was in Revelation. I'm gonna talk about that a bit more later on. Actually, I might talk about it next because it's next on my list here. Walkbacks. So on the one hand, I'll talk about the walkbacks are good and bad. So they're walking back things that they had done in Revelation and in the comics that were tied into Revelation. So in the comics, this is spoilers now. In the comics, they had shown that Skeletor came from a planet full of skull-faced people, and he had a wife and kids. He had a whole life there. And that runs counter to the whole Keldor thing. In this series, all of that is revealed to be implanted memories from Hordak, and he really is Keldor. And the whole Keldor thing, if you don't know, that Keldor was the uncle of He-Man, a half-brother of Randor, and he basically turned into Skeletor at some point, some way. That was implied in the old mini-comics that came packed with the original toys, and was more expanded upon in the 2000X series. So here they dive right into that. So that's one walk back, and that's cool. But other walkbacks are just the attitudes of the characters. Teela and Queen Marlena, for example. Queen Marlena is a lot more motherly and a lot more supportive of He-Man and King Randor, which was a huge shift from Revelation. In Revelation, King Randor could do no right. And even though like he banished a few people from the kingdom and stuff, but he's hurting as a father who didn't know that Prince Adam was He-Man, and I think Queen Marlena did. And Queen Marlena punishes him and doghouses him in the Revelation series. Here, everyone is all on board with King Randor. Everyone loves King Randor. It's funny that Teela and Queen Marlena, their actresses got recast. So here, I think Queen Marlena is Gates McFadden, I think. And in Revelation, Queen Marlena was Alicia Silverstone or something. I think she said as if in that original series. It's a completely different character. Teela is a completely different character. Teela was combative and squabbly and stewed in her own wrong, like very selfish attitude towards everything. In Revelation, Teela's screaming at everyone that she didn't know who He-Man was, and sort of like that's her entire point, that she wasn't told. And then she stews about it for years after that, and it's not a character that would be promoted to Captain of the Guard or Man-at-Arms or whatever it's called. So it's weird. Plus, the whole business of Teela and Andra, I think her name was, they were heavily implying that those two were supposed to be an item. And that's completely walked back here. Teela is a completely different character here. She loves King Randor. She loves Prince Adam. They're heavily shipping Prince Adam and Teela here, which is what people thought what should have happened after the Filmation TV series. And yeah, she's completely different. She's happy. She's willing to help her friends. She is Teela. And it's a completely different character. Different voice actress, different character. That's weird. I'm talking about the good of this. I like this character, but we'll get into the bad of it when I talk about the bad. There are fun callbacks. There's like a lot of different Easter eggs and stuff like that. Usually I don't like Easter eggs and stuff because it's like it's just yay, am I supposed to clap now? But I do get a kick out of watching all of the old toy designs and stuff come to life in this fun, crisp animation style. That's cool. A lot of the old vehicles and stuff like that are in here. A lot of old characters too. There are a lot of cameos, and the cameos are awesome. That's good and bad as well. So I'll talk about the good of them. I like seeing characters like Rio Blast and all that stuff. And Ram Man and all those cool characters, figures that a lot of kids had. I think Ram Man was my first, and then the following Christmas I got He-Man and Battlecat and Skeletor and Panther. So I like seeing the cameos. There is a bad side to it, and I'll get to that in a bad side. It's cool to see the Horde here. The Horde is in it. Hordak is in it. That's good and bad, so I like seeing them, but there's not a lot of them. And the voice acting is another good and bad. I like, I really love William Shatner in his. William Shatner really hams it up. He's like 92 or something like that, and he is playing Keldor. And they even have a Star Trek II line in here. But I do like a lot of the voice acting. Queen Marlena is great. Sometimes the celebrity voice acting, and a lot of these are basically celebrities instead of actual voice actors for cartoons. sometimes the celebrities do bleed through, and I just hear that celebrity and not the actual character. That was the whole point of voice casting back in the day in voice acting, was that uh, actors were cast for the voice that they were doing rather than for being a celebrity and stuff. That happens sometimes, but not for an entire cartoon voice cast. So yeah, it's good and bad for me, the voice acting. So let's get into the bad. A lot of the story is awful. First of all, the walkbacks make no sense. So I think I hit upon this. Tila and Queen Marlena are completely different characters here, walking back their squabbly, combative attitudes from Masters of the Universe Revelation, which themselves were not earned. I don't know why Tila was that upset and screaming at her grieving father over not knowing that Prince Adam was He-Man. Would you not, at that point, would you not, as an adult, think maybe there was a strong reason for that, that I was being protected, or something like that, right? You know, instead we get this childish FOMO. And like Queen Marlena was unnecessarily mean to King Randor. They're both grieving for their son. But he was lied to. Why don't you have any feelings for that? Here, they are a lot more loving of their family and friends. And the thing is, that's great. I like seeing that. The problem is it's unearned. I don't know why they're suddenly shifted from the characters they were in Revelation. You can watch this as its own thing, but the problem is the show encourages you not to, because a lot of the situations dovetail from Revelation, like the whole motherboard thing and all that stuff. And you know what, you have to think of Revelation, so you're forced to think of it, and you're like, wait a minute, Queen Marlena and Tila are not the same character at all from Revelation. So the walkbacks are unnatural and unearned, and it's jarring. It's jarring. He-Man has a dilemma in Revelation. So Revelation is basic. Not Revelation, Revolution. I hate these titles that sound the same. It's like the Spider-Man at Home titles. It's like I don't know which home movie I'm watching. So in Revolution, He-Man has a dilemma placed upon him by King Randor. King Randor is dying. I'll get to that. And King Randor says, you have to choose, like, you will now be king. You have to choose between the scepter and the sword. Like, you have to choose to be the king or He-Man. You can't do both. That's a completely manufactured, contrived dilemma, just so He-Man can have some sort of arc or something to do in this. You can totally tell that He-Man was not supposed to be in this series, because Teela's the one going on the quest, and He-Man, like, you know, has his own thing to do, but it's this contrived nonsense of choosing between being He-Man and being King. King Grayskull, in their own continuity, was both. In larger continuities, like other franchises, Conan was king, you know, and his first stories were him being a warrior king. And in real life, it happened all the time, you know, Alexander, etc., you know, in the past. So it's a contrived, like, just made up problem for He-Man to deal with just to have a plot. I thought that was awful. It's contrived, and it's not a problem at all for He-Man to be a king. So yeah. I would say that the cameos are way too fleeting. What do I write here? I say, it makes me yearn for a real Masters of the Universe show that incorporates these guys. Yeah, like in Masters of the Universe, they would have these guys along with the rest of the cast. You know, like Fisto and frickin' Ram Man and all that. You know, these characters were part of the team and part of the cast. And here they turn up every so often in very fleeting moments that are fantastic, but I don't know why they're not part of the cast of Masters of the Universe. It seems to me to be like poor writing, not being able to incorporate these guys more. Seeing the cameos is fun, but I don't know why they're cameos. Uh, He-Man's conclusion at the end comes from nowhere. I'm reading my notes here. It makes the sword and sorcery world of He-Man seem smaller and less interesting and less exotic, and casts monarchy as bad unnecessarily in a premise where it wasn't a problem and was a backdrop that cast Masters of the Universe in a fantasy escapist world away from the modernity and mundanity of republics and legislation and, like Congress and Senate. Look, so at the end of the movie, at the end of the show, He-Man decides that they should do away with monarchy, and he cites that, look what happened, like Keldor claimed the crown, and then he did all this, and now the palace is destroyed. Okay, well that's more you guys' fault. It's like you didn't know that a blue guy named Keldor was really Skeletor. I knew that sitting on my ass watching this. And he basically says that that's a problem, that that people should decide their own fate. So he brings about democracy, I'm assuming, as a republic system. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not what Masters of the Universe is. As I say in my notes, the whole business of kings and queens and stuff is in fantasy because it's far removed from the governments we have. I live in a country where the crown is part of the government, but it's not in a way that like the king, the king basically decides everything and stuff like that. Like we still have free elections, etc. In fantasy tropes, even when they try to do fantasy of other countries and cultures away from the European king and queen model, there's still kingdoms or rajas or whatever, because it's removed from the governmental systems we have, and therefore is part of the escapism of these fantasy stories. And if you're saying that now there's going to be a president and like Congress and Senate and stuff, like branches of government in Masters of the Universe, it's not a fantasy sword and sorcery thing anymore. That's the problem. And also in the show is called Masters of the Universe Revolution. Most of the theme of this thing is about magic versus technology. There's nothing really about revolting against the monarchy system. The people of Eternos don't say, well, we should have a better system and all that stuff. None of that happens. It's just something that He-Man just comes up with at the very end of the show. It's so weird. So yeah, I thought that was kind of stupid. Okay, so King Randor decides to die. Notice what I said there, because how he dies is not that he gets wounded in battle and dies, or dies in battle or something. What happens is he has a heart attack or something. They say it's an organ. And when he's on his deathbed, he and his servants reveal that they've known about this condition for weeks, but he's chosen to do nothing about it because his time has come, blah, blah, blah. And it's a very selfish decision because it's implied that he can be cured and up and at them and, basically leading a normal life after he's cured. And here he's making a decision to leave his wife, leave his son, leave his kingdom, leave everything just because his time has come. It's contrived and stupid and makes King Randor a terrible character. I know they don't see this because it's poor writing, but it's bad writing. I mean, he chooses to die. It's stupidness. He chooses to put the kingdom in jeopardy just because he thinks he should just do it for his own selfish reasons. Oh, I just want to die now. My time's come, time to rest or whatever. This is at a time when there's no Preternia. I don't like this whole Kevin Smith universe where Preternia is heaven and not, what came before Eternia. It was supposed to be the prehistory of Eternia in the old mini comics, and here it's just heaven. It's just weird. But Tila has to restore Preternia by the end of the show so that all the heroes can go to heaven, their version of heaven, instead of Scareglow's hell. So there you have it. So yeah, the whole crux of this series is King Randor dies, and then He-Man has to make a BS decision that's not a problem at all. That's the entire series, and that's why I say the story is awful. It's stupid. If you check your brain at the door, you'll have a good time with this. They are heroes, and they fight Skeletor, and that's cool. But beyond that, I don't think that this is a very good series. I do think it's visually great, and it's something you can have on in the background and not be so pissed off at it, like Revelation, where all the characters are belligerent a-holes. Here, the characters are heroes, they go on quests, they defeat the bad guy, and on a surface level, that's it. If you stop to think about any part of this storyline, even on a base level, like you don't even have to go very deep, it's an awful story. And in some ways belittles the characters in a way that I don't think was intended. It's just so poorly written. Like King Randor looks stupid, He-Man looks stupid sometimes, so there you go. That's my review of Revolution. I feel like watching He-Man, and guess what? I feel like watching the old Filmation series or the 2000X series. I don't think that this really supplants those. It's fun, I guess, but like as I said in the beginning of my video, you can skip this and not feel like you've been left out of anything. So that's my Revolution review. Until next time, take care.